You put $10 in, you get a lead. You put $20 in, you get a lead. Even to the point where it actually becomes, you put $200 in and you get a wedding. I wore my smart man glasses today. Do you like? You see this?
It's correct.
Let me read it to the audience. My fitness age is 20.
Welcome to the first Lo-Fi Monday. That's as hype as no, maybe Lachlan's going to get hype. The idea behind this is to not do a big production. We don't have cameras. Lachlan and I both live in Canada, but we're across the country, a pretty big flight. And Lachlan has a lot of data. He's the CEO of Focal, and he has a ton of data on what actually books photographers' work. So we're going to dive into that today and talk a little bit about ads, talk a little bit about the Focal Ignite program, which runs ads for photographers. And throughout this video, we're going to give you the tools that you need to run ads and to also book weddings in a repeatable way, which I think is really, really important. So Lachlan, hello.
Hello. What do you mean this is low production? I have my plants. I got the maple syrup. I don't know what I signed up for, but like, here I am.
Banner?
Pop-up banner.
Yeah, I got the, we're ready for Easter. We're super early, but we're ready with our paper rolls up here.
Tritone portrait background.
Yeah. If you're just listening to this as a podcast, there's also a video version over here on YouTube as well. If you want to check that out at some point. You can also drop any questions in the YouTube video, and we are happy to consider them or answer them in future Lo-Fi Mondays. What are we here to talk about today, Lachlan?
Well, I think you mentioned ads, and I'm happy to talk about ads. I think that's what most photographers think about when they hear about the Ignite program. Something that I find really interesting, it's like a lot of the photographers applying for our Ignite program, and we get hundreds a week, they're very, very fixated on leads and ads. That's what they think it's about. If I only had more leads, I need more leads, I don't get enough leads, or my leads are inconsistent. That's a very common one. Photographers sitting around praying that, their website is going to bring in leads or they're magically going to fall out of the sky. The funny thing is actually, after generating tens of thousands of leads over the past year and a half in the Ignite program, even since the beginning, the leads has always been the easy part. Easy. It's honestly like putting $10 to $20 in at one end, and depending on the market, a lead falls out at the other end. It's one of the easiest parts of the process. The hard part of the process is actually, what do you do with that lead? And I think a lot of photographers, one of the problems they have with generating leads is, obviously the inconsistency, but when they actually get the lead, it's like they try something different every single time with that lead. They have a very inconsistent sales process. And what I want to talk about today with Ignite is how the leads are the easy part. Anyone can go and generate leads. You watch this, first 2 minutes of this video and you'll be able to generate leads. But if you actually want to get consistent bookings, not just put $10 in, $20 in, get a lead out, and you want to actually get more towards a system where you put $100 in or $200 in and you get a wedding out. Now we're talking. And I think that's what's most exciting about the Ignite program. So of course, I'm going to talk about ads. I'm going to talk about leads. I'm going to show you that that's the easy part, but then we're going to move way past that. And we're going to talk about actually building a repeatable sales process. And I think that's really what photographers need, not leads. Leads are easy.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting for me. I guess to give a little of my perspective, I've been a wedding photographer for like 20 years now. So I definitely play in a bit of a different space. Like my first few years, a lot of it was based on, I did a lot of random marketing. I was like, oh, I should advertise in this wedding magazine. And that yielded me no weddings at all. And then once I started to get into paid ads, I started to realize that like, oh, I can generate some like consistent incoming. And that was really, really nice. I think that my struggle was absolutely on the actual conversion of those leads, because the leads coming in from a paid ad are a little bit different than somebody that would come in from a referral that was actually at a wedding and met me in real life. And I didn't really know how to nurture them. And I think it was a little bit of an ego thing as well, that like I didn't want to work hard. I didn't want to follow up. Following up was like, oh, this is like work so dirty. Yeah, I'm like, no, you should just like want to book me. And now I know that that is completely not the case. Yeah. So do you want to get into a little bit of what you've prepared for today? We have a presentation on Lo-Fi
Presentation
Mondays.
that I definitely didn't just make 7 seconds before this call. No, I appreciate you sharing that, Taylor. I mean, I think that that's a very consistent experience for photographers. And I actually encourage you and other photographers to really think about like other maybe services or things that they, interact with on a daily basis or buy on a daily basis. If you've ever gone and like, called some place to like get, I don't know, your car detailed or something. And then you're like, oh, sorry, I'm not sure. I need to check my schedule, and then they call you back and they're like, hey, I just wanted to follow up. Like, do you still need to like get that interior cleaning done? That's very appreciated. You're like, oh yeah, definitely. Like totally needed to do that. Maybe you got distracted by something. That's a good customer experience. And so I really encourage follow up. Like that's how to treat your clients well, how to demonstrate a high level of customer service, show clients that you care and you want to service them. And I mean, it leads to bookings. Believe it or not, follow up leads to bookings. And something I'll talk about in our process is the sheer amount of follow up. Like most photographers, if they follow up, they give up after like 1 or 2 tries. What our studio management team does, so in the Ignite program, we're not just generating the leads, we're providing a whole sales team that's really supporting those leads, nurturing them, doing the follow-up, and then helping convert them into bookings. And these follow-ups are like 30, 40 touch points over the course of 2 to 6 months in order to get these couples to book. So cry me a river if you can't do one follow-up. We pretty much hammer the couples very tastefully. We hammer them until they either tell us to go away or they tell us they booked another photographer. And frankly, like if you are wanting to book more weddings, that is kind of the approach that you need to take. Yeah.
No, that's scary for me. I feel like I'm also like in the sales process. I know what to do a lot of the time, but I am
you don't
also
want to
like
do it.
unable to like
to do it.
Yeah.
I think that's actually where it helps to have a bit of a third party. Like you're like, hey, this is my studio manager, Lachlan. It's his job. This is his job to do this. Like there's no, guilt. And then it's easy for like, hey, I'm Lachlan. I'm Taylor's studio manager. Just wanting to follow up on your inquiry. They understand that it's just my job to do that. That separation actually can help quite a bit. And I think that's what photographers really enjoy about our Ignite program. Well, let me get into the leads. The ads and the leads. I know we talked about that. But you can see how quickly I jumped past like talking about the ads and the leads. Cause again, that's the easy part. I'll get into it now, but there is a lot more discussion. It's very much an 80-20 on like the leads and then the actual process and the nurturing. So, all right,
come on back to another Lo-Fi Monday next Monday.
To another Lo-Fi Monday. Okay. So yeah, like Taylor, essentially I want to like dive into talking about our ads process, which again, just to remind everyone is very much like 20% of it. But if you are thinking about running your own ads, we're not afraid of sharing what the secret sauce is because again, it's like generating the leads is easy. So I just want to give you a few kind of high level tips on how is doing this. And I think what everyone's going to realize through these Lo-Fi Mondays is Focal and the Ignite program, we're not shy about sharing our secrets. Like we actually want to share 100% genuinely everything that we're doing so that if you're a photographer that actually wants to do the program, there's no surprises. You know exactly what you're getting yourself into. And that leads to better outcomes. We book more weddings together, and that's good for everyone with the way that Ignite is structured. So, I'm going to bring up our kind of ads manager. So first off, if you've never seen this before and you've run ads, you're doing something very wrong. So a lot of photographers, I'd say, like go on Instagram, they hit the boost button and they're like, I tried it. It didn't work. Ads suck. 100%. You don't want to be boosting posts on Instagram. That is like a surefire way to take your money and just like light it on fire. You want to be in the professional meta ads dashboard. So you should be looking at your ads at this level. You should be running a campaign with an audience that's targeted certain ad sets, and then you should be like what we're doing here for Nate in San Diego, running a number of different ads just to see what's performing. I know that sounds very overwhelming, but it isn't. It's very much just building out an ad creative and then using that creative to target. More or less, the simplest way is to draw a circle around where you are as far as you're willing to drive and target engaged couples. That's a very easy place to start. Now, Focal, with all of our data, has actually trained our kind of meta pixel on what the best kind of targeting and best audience is. But if you're wanting to start running ads yourself, like I said, very, very easy to do. Taylor, this is kind of an example of one of the ads that we run here. This is a very, very successful ad. It probably books 90% of the weddings through the Ignite program. And effectively, it's a very elegant looking ad. The main campaign offer is to win a free engagement session. We're pointing out, hey, where we are, that Nate is based in San Diego, California. That helps ensure that the couples, aren't from super far away. Of course, we have targeting, but you do want to, it helps build trust as well. If they're in San Diego, they see that you as the photographer are in San Diego as well. So yeah, I mean, just curious, anything you noticed about this ad that's interesting or?
Well, from my perspective of making video ads for the past, I don't even know how long now. I feel like I've been very strong with video ads, and I've literally never even, since maybe 2015 was the last time I ran a still image ad.
Yeah.
So that is interesting to me. It's also kind of a lower barrier to entry, I think, for running ads. You can do some graphics rather than being in front of a camera and trying to be a professional presenter when you're probably not. You're probably just a photographer. This seems low barrier to entry is what I like, and effective also.
Totally. I mean, I would say thousands of photographers copy our ads because they see them all the time on our videos. So feel free, go ahead. Nothing too special about them, right? One thing I would point out about these ads before I dive into actually kind of what happens with them in the user journey, but you'll notice that we're using wedding photos. Hey, so we're advertising a free engagement session, but we are using wedding photos as the creative. And like you mentioned, we're using static ads. We've actually done a lot of testing that video performs way worse than static and carousel. So we mainly use static ads on Facebook and Instagram, and it's going to be primarily Instagram as well. So yeah, something to be aware of. The other thing I wanted to point out, and Taylor, let me know, like, can you see my cursor at all? Like can you see cursor?
It's a great question.
Maybe not.
I don't think so.
Okay, well then I will explain where my cursor is. So if you see up at the top here, like on the Instagram Explorer ad, it says like Shoot Yuri sponsored, and like there's his face in the top corner. Something that's quite interesting, which I think when people are running ads, they don't realize, is people or couples or your clients, they don't always go exactly where you think, right? You think, okay, I'm going to run an ad. The client is going to click this link, learn more button, and they're going to go to like wherever that goes, landing page. Hopefully it's not like the Instagram built-in lead form. Hopefully it's not DM. Hopefully you're actually using a landing page, which we'll talk about. But a lot of people think, oh yeah, the couple's going to click the learn more button and then they're going to go there. And really quickly, but just to show you what that looks like, he has a beautiful portfolio. He's got beautiful work. And I think the biggest thing to notice, and this is something we encourage our photographers to do, is to really put yourself out there, put your face there. There's a really nice photo here of Nate. He's holding his camera. It's very obvious that he's the photographer. He looks super friendly. We're human. Faces allow us to build trust and connection. And essentially what's happening are couples are hitting that ad. They're going to Instagram. They're scrolling through his portfolio. They're doing kind of a vibe check, and they're like, yeah, he checks out, looks great. I recognize a lot of these couples and weddings that have been booked through Ignite. And a couple scrolling through Instagram, they're kind of going to see the same thing. They're like, yeah, this guy's legit. I can trust him. And then what's very interesting is they'll often like click here, the link in bio, and head over to the website. So now I'm going to show you like what that part of the user journey looks like. And this is very, very important. because couples are primarily clicking through that link in bio on um, their phones, it's like literally 99.9% of the traffic is on mobile. This is where your website becomes very, very important. And, with Nate's website, for example, this is his focal website. It shows off really beautiful portfolio. It shows off, again, that he's a nice, friendly guy, shows off his work. And then very quickly, it's like, what do I actually offer? Or even the main menu call to actions, like, oh, investment. That's where couples are going to check out, like, hey, how much does this cost? What do you offer? And I think if your website is actually built for conversion, built for getting inquiries, built for getting bookings, this becomes actually a very viable way to book weddings off of just those couples clicking off the ad to Instagram. Something to point out is the way we structure Nate's packages on his website is we tell and educate the couples on what package they should go for. So you take this 10-hour package, everything from like the image selection, showing bigger weddings, to the description saying, hey, if you're having a longer wedding where the getting ready is like somewhere else from the reception, the ceremony, you want like more coverage for a longer timeline, you want to have a second photographer to capture like getting ready details, other ceremony angles, family photos, etc., then this is the package for you. And then we give them a very easy, conversion flow to go through, find their wedding date, and then actually make a request. And you'll see how like nice the mobile feel is, compared to like hitting like a contact form or something. Like this is really helping kind of filter couples down into what they're looking for. So if they're having a micro wedding or a more intimate wedding, this is the package for them, and they can self-select and choose the package. And so the inquiries that are coming through this traffic channel are very different. Maybe you can speak to this, but like these leads are very much, hey, I saw your 10-hour package, or hey, I saw your micro wedding package. Just want to make sure you're available for our date and that we've selected the right package. And then you're pretty much, within a 2-day window, getting that contract signed, getting the deposit booked, because the couple has sold themselves already, like on the website. So, that's just one effect of running ads properly, is you're going to get this byproduct of traffic to your Instagram, to your website. And if it's set up properly, you get what we call direct bookings. The last thing I'll mention on this is that some photographers in our Ignite program get a lot of direct bookings, a lot. Sometimes the ratio is like almost 50-50 direct bookings versus our free engagement campaign bookings. Some are 0 direct bookings and some are 100% free engagement. The very quick explanation of who gets direct bookings are photographers that have a depth of portfolio. They're extremely competitively priced in their market. Obviously, California is one of our highest ticket booking markets for Ignite. Nate's pricing is quite attractive, quite competitive. His work is beautiful. His Instagram is very, very nice, and he has a high converting website on mobile. Those are the pieces. If you have those pieces, you typically get direct bookings.
Yeah. So my at least my experience with paid ads, I definitely don't think about any of that. I think I just was like, oh, I have to do a paid ad today. And then I would do a paid ad, and there would be none of that workflow. It would literally just be like, okay, here's the thing. Please click through, like now booking for 2027, 50% full for next year or something.
Mm-hmm.
It would basically be something like that with no real flow in mind. For sure, no landing page or anything that's like specific to that ad. So yeah, I think it was maybe just that, like, as business owners, we have to do like 150 different sub jobs. And it was always just overwhelming for me to be like, okay, I know probably the process that I got to be running an ad that pushes to a landing page that's specific to that ad and eventually get to a contact form. But I think it's just like so honestly overwhelming to think about adding like more stuff to make a new web page. That's another barrier. Like now I have to do that in order to do the paid ad. Maybe I'm not even going to do the paid ad. Maybe that gets pushed next week. So that's been my experience as a solo business owner.
Yeah, no, and I do appreciate that. And I recognize maybe how arrogant it sounds for me to say it's just easy, it's just easy, it's just easy. But it is easy because it's so replicable, because we do this every day and it feels, so easy. And it's because we have such a system in place. And, this is the same system we use for photographers all over the States and Canada and UK and Australia. And, yeah, like it's just very simple when you get the pieces down. And it is actually simple if you sign up for Ignite because we build those landing pages for you. We have an ads team that builds the creative, that runs the ads. You don't have to think about it. In fact, if you were in the Ignite program at this point, it's completely hands-free. Your work doesn't actually start until you start having to take client calls, which hopefully you're good at. I'll talk about that later. But this is all handled by Focal, up to, literally getting the contract and deposit signed. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, Taylor. And I can take in and recognize that it is not as simple as it seems. But I hope that people watching or listening here do get kind of a sense that like it's doable. It's doable. It's not too crazy. And so yeah, I want to come back to the ad here. Like we obviously just talked about what happens if they go off the ad to Instagram, but the question is now what do they do if they actually click on the ad? So they're clicking on that learn more button, going to a landing page, hopefully. Hopefully you've set up a landing page. Do not use the DMs, do not use the like in-app Instagram or Meta kind of lead forms. Highly recommend not doing that. You're not going to bring in the right couples that way. So use a landing page. I will even show you our landing page, and I'm sure from this video we'll see another 1,000 copies of our landing page circling around, but that's all right. No worries. For simplicity, I am just going to show this on desktop. It's a little bit easier to read, but bear in mind that the leads are actually generally coming in through mobile. So effectively what we do with our landing pages, and we have a number of different ones we run, but I'll just show this one because it's easy. We're doing this engagement session giveaway. We're showing that Nate obviously is a wedding photographer in San Diego. We talk a little bit about his approach to photography to share that, see if couples can kind of connect to what he cares about and what his philosophy is around weddings and shooting. And then we show off some more portfolio as a carrot to get people excited. And then very, very quickly, what we do is we just get them into the lead form. We say, hey, enter for your chance to win this engagement session, how to enter. We ask couples to share your story, like your love story. And then we talk about how they'll be booking an intro call. So yeah, essentially what we're doing with our lead form is we're letting couples know that they can enter to win a free engagement session. How to enter is very simple. We're like, share your love story. And then from there, you're going to book an intro call. And you'll see kind of the fields we're collecting. We're getting their name, their email, their phone number. We're getting their wedding date. And this is really interesting. We're asking them to share a bit about their love story and suggest a location for their engagement photos. And then very on the nose, we're like, hey, do you have a photographer booked yet? Yes or no? If you don't have one booked, would you consider me as your wedding photographer? And then we ask them very straight up, like what their wedding budget is. So we're not shy about what this is about, Couples know what they're getting themselves into. Of course, they want the engagement session, but, they're pretty aware just from the questions that we are kind of asking them about their wedding. They know that this is a bit of a timeshare, and that's good. We want to be transparent. And that is a bit of a filtering mechanism where couples, if they aren't serious about what wedding booking at all, they're obviously not going to go through the hoops there. So this generates roughly 10 to, I would say 15 to 20 leads a month for photographers that are in our Ignite program. And that's off of kind of a $225 ad budget. Like I said, this is the easy part. Generating leads is very easy. And like you said, the leads you're generating through the ads, it's very different from a referral lead. It's very different from a lead just coming through your website, hitting the contact form. It's very different from the direct leads we talked about where they're picking a package, and you need to handle this sales process a little bit differently. So I'll dive into that next.
Yeah, for at least myself, and doing these engagement sessions, I think it also comes with a bit of a benefit if you are a newer photographer. Doing a lot of engagement sessions is also just nice. Like it builds portfolio as well. I'm happy to be out there shooting, and also getting to shoot in the locations that hopefully will allow me to tag a venue or tag some other place that somebody's going to hopefully be looking at. That's also like a huge plus for me, I think, to just actually get out there and shoot a little bit more, and to know that you're on the pathway that one, like you get to do the thing, but then also know that there's a pretty likely booking at the other side of it.
Definitely. Yeah. I think, that's a common story we hear. We have a lot of photographers coming to Ignite, and they are generally like very experienced. They have great portfolio, but they're maybe starting a little bit from scratch. Maybe they just moved from like one city or state to another state, or maybe they took a break from their business for a while and are coming back. And my number one piece of advice, honestly, is that if you're a photographer in that kind of position where you really are starting from nothing as far as word of mouth or referral foundation, the best thing you can do is just get behind your camera and shoot with couples, do sessions, give them an amazing experience. They're going to tell their friends, they're going to post those photos on Instagram, and that's what leads to the word of mouth. And I think it's very easy to think, oh, I just need to sit behind the computer. I need to work on my ads. I need to post on Instagram. I need to work on my website, blog. I think the worst marketing you can do as a photographer is sit behind your computer, because most photographers hate that part of the business, hate wearing that hat. It comes across if you're out shooting and actually enjoying yourself. So we definitely build that into the Ignite program. So I'm going to just switch gears now into showing you the leads. I think this is very interesting. I'm going to show you an example lead here. This one's a little bit dramatic, but it actually does kind of encompass a very common lead that we generate through the Ignite program. Probably I'd say 2 to 3 out of 5 look like this. And what I'll point out, this is literally a screenshot of the lead, and I've just blurred out a fair bit of the personal information here, but effectively you have a couple who is getting married in March 2026. And this was a long way back, actually. I think this lead came in November of 24. They've put a venue here. So Trillium is a venue, and then location is Seaverville, just outside of like Nashville area. So they have a vague date, not an exact date. They have sort of a venue. And then I think what's really interesting about this lead is this entire orange block here is, and I'm scrolling, I hope you can see, but that's like the love story they shared. To summarize it, not to give away too many personal details, essentially they like met like in Old Town in Nashville, and they were with some friends, and they just talked about all the fun they had together in their relationship and how they met and did all these like fun adventures. And then down here, it's like, hey, do you have a photographer booked yet? They said, not yet. If you don't have one booked, would you consider me as your photographer? They wrote, we'd love to see your wedding packages. And then down here, what is your photography budget? And they put to be determined. So I'm really curious, actually, Taylor, to hear what your thoughts are on this lead. Maybe trying to set aside things about the Ignite program. Just curious, like if you got this lead, is this a good lead? Is this a bad lead? Do we care about this lead?
If this is coming in November 2024 for a 2026 wedding, I would say that's on like the biggest scope that I usually get. I would say most of my leads, at least that come in organically, are pretty much for the next year or like the next 12 months now. It didn't used to be this way. It used to be like pre-COVID, it used to be all across the board. Like I'd probably have something on the calendar for like 2028 now.
Yeah.
But I feel like things have adjusted and changed a little bit. So a lead this early would be a little kind of outside of the normal for me. And then also with no budget is also a little bit of a mystery. Hopefully they've been to my website and they know at least that roughly they're comfortable with the starting rate or they're comfortable with one of the packages. But yeah, this one I would consider to be, they're obviously like super engaged because they gave you a lot of information in their story, but then a little bit of a mystery for how that's going to convert.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
Overall would be my feel on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I appreciate the honesty on that. And that is a very common kind of flag that photographers wave when they see a lead like this. Now, I said this is an extreme kind of lead where it is super vague. They have that TBD budget. But like you kind of mentioned when we were talking about types of ads we're running, you really need to understand kind of the context and the couples that you're targeting and who you're actually trying to bring in with the ads. And so that's what I want to talk about now. The leads we bring in with Ignite are very different, very, very, very different from what a photographer would consider a normal or like a good lead. So I think the biggest thing to point out is this number here, this 50%. So
that's crazy.
yes, I know. And that's what everyone says when they see this slide. From all the data we generate, and this is just our 2024 data, hasn't been updated, but 50% of the weddings, and these are weddings that we booked into like paid booking. Half of them, the initial inquiry did not have a venue. Let that sink in, right? And 40% of the weddings we booked also didn't give like an exact date. So this is very common that they say something like March, or they say fall, or they say, you know, hoping to get married in the summer or something of a certain year. Why? Why do the leads look like this, and how are we booking them? That's always the question. Our strategy is extremely deliberate here with the ad targeting, with the type of campaign we're running. What we're doing is we are trying to target couples much, much earlier on in wedding planning than what a photographer is typically used to. Most photographers, they think a great lead is one that's got the date, it's got the venue, they've got the budget planned out, they're going down the not how to plan my wedding checklist, and they're literally on the box. They have checked off every box, they booked other vendors, they got their venue, they got their date, and they're on the box, book photographer. Of course, that's a really high intent lead. That's great. They are ready to book. You're going to have a short sales cycle on them. The downside is that is by far the most competitive point in the entire wedding planning journey as a photographer to try to fight for that lead, because they have 25 Chrome tabs open and they are comparing you against every other photographer in the area. And they are deep, deep, deep on spending already. They've spent tens of thousands of dollars. Their partner is like, hey, we got to reel things in. We got a little crazy on the first few vendors. We got to reel things in. And they're honestly probably getting a little burnt this point. They just need to get it over with. We don't want to target couples there. You know, if we get them through those direct inquiries through the Instagram, great, awesome, we're going to book them. But that's not what we're targeting with this free engagement Ignite campaign. We are actually targeting couples at the beginning of wedding planning. The sweet spot, frankly, are couples who've either just got their date and venue locked down, or they're touring venues. Touring venues is like practically the sweet spot. If a couple is touring venues, it means that they have not looked for a photographer at all, because everyone wants to know what's the venue going to be and what's the date going to be. So that's like the forefront of their mind. That is their priority. It also means they have not spent any money yet. Zero. They haven't spent a dime. They're excited about wedding planning. And they haven't really considered photography yet. They're not looking at photographers yet. But they are excited about doing engagement photos. They need engagement photos to show off, to put on Instagram, to put on invites, all sorts of things, put on their wedding website. So we get them with the hook of the engagement session. We're getting them at the point where there isn't competition from other photographers. And we're getting them at the point where we can actually educate them. And that's why you see these TBD budget answers. Okay. So, you know, here, 20% of the booked wedding inquiries put TBD as their budget. It's because they just haven't thought about it yet. It's not because they're poor or they're a bad lead. They like legitimately just don't have any idea. And so these couples are actually really, really good kind of point in their planning where if they meet you, Taylor, they're like, oh, Taylor makes us feel so comfortable. He's so helpful. He's explaining to us all his experience in like wedding planning. He's telling us like based on us having a big wedding or a small wedding, what kind of package we might need, what kind of coverage we might need. Now that couple is able to factor that into the budget. They're like, Taylor told us it's going to be $5,000. Great. We're going to plan for $5,000 in the pie. And as soon as they have the date booked, the venue booked, what's an easy next decision? The $5,000 package that we already talked about with Taylor, right? And so that is very much how we're going about targeting the couples and why our leads look the way they do.
Yeah. There's also, I would say from the photographer standpoint, so looking at like business longevity, this is also the way that you can now bring a lot of value to venues. That if you're talking with couples and you're like, hey, here are my two favorite venues.
You can recommend
if you're
them.
not considering them, you should check them out. And then they go and they talk to the salesperson. They're like, oh, like Taylor said, we should come by. And now all of a sudden, if you're booking wedding venues somewhere between like $30,000 or $100,000 in sales, you're going to fast track yourself to their preferred list. Obviously, they're going to love to have you around, and you're going to be kind of a one of one, because I don't know of many photographers that are bringing weddings specifically to venues in that way and actually making them money. And same goes with all the other vendors, that now you get to just kind of work with all your friends every week. That it's like, oh, you're at this point. Here's a venue. Here's a florist. Here's where you should go to get a suit. Here's where you should go to get a dress. And you just get to work with all your friends and make all your friends money. So
Totally.
you're going to get some sweet Christmas gifts if you're in this position.
That's what it's all about.
Maximizing Christmas or other holiday gifts. Yes.
You know what my you know what my go-to Christmas gift is? I literally at home, I have a stack of air tags. And if I don't know what to give somebody for Christmas, they get an air tag. Yeah.
I love that.
There's a hot life hack for you. So I want to dive back to this lead. So we talked about this lead, the TBD budget, the like eternity love story here. I'm going to show you the actual email template we used to book this lead. And I'm going to talk about the sales process. Again, this is back in November 21 of 2024. And this is an old email. We've done a lot of work on our emails since then, but the gist of it actually remains pretty much the same here. And I want to walk you through the language we use to actually follow up with that lead. And then I'll take you through the more modern template. But effectively what we're doing here is we're just addressing the couple and saying like, hey, couple, thank you so much for sharing your story. We loved reading about what you shared, how you met in Old Town, how it led to your relationship, how much fun you two clearly have together. What Karina said, who's, by the way, like introducing herself, is like, hey, I am Karina. I'm the studio manager for like Taylor. So there's no mention of Focal. She is effectively like your person being there to talk with the couple. And I think that actually elevates the business quite a bit. Couples are like, whoa, studio manager, this is a pro, right? And then what she says here was very interesting and very deliberate. She says, I'm happy to let you know that your love story has qualified you as a finalist to win the engagement session. To move forward, we would love for you to chat on a quick call with the photographers here. So for example, like with Taylor, and the whole point of this is just to make sure you guys have chemistry before the session. You can schedule a time here. Essentially what we're saying to them is, you're close to getting the session. There's no point booking it if you and Taylor like don't hit it off on the call. So let's just have a call that's like a vibe check first. And that also helps like break the ice before doing the photos, which is nice. And then down here, this is very important because you have to remember we're advertising on the ad a free engagement session. Couples know that there is a timeshare element to this. The way you can build trust is be very transparent about that and address it head on. So we say, our hope is that this engagement session will be a fun way for you to try before you buy. Many couples find that like doing these sessions, they decide that like Taylor is like the perfect choice for their wedding and, they decide to book him. So right off the bat, we're just getting it out of the way that, go into this engagement session with the perspective that you're trying out working with Taylor. And if it goes well, it's a way to verify that you want to book him. So this is how we essentially get couples onto client calls. 10 to 15, I would say, a month. 10 to 15 a month. We get them on client calls with you, and then that gives you a shot to build that connection, to build that trust. And very frankly, what we're trying to do is we're trying to sell Taylor. You can't find another Taylor out there. I've looked, I've tried. You can find another photographer who takes good work at probably a similar price point. What the client call does is it helps them build trust, build connection. I'm sure you experience this. You have couples come on, they vomit their wedding vision out to you. They're like, this is all the things we hope and dream for. And if you're a good listener, which I know Taylor is, he could take that and he can say, yeah, I hear you based on like what you're saying. I think you're going to need this type of package. So we often have our photographers even over screen share, show their different packages and just be a helper. You know, based on what you're sharing with me, based on what you want to get out of your wedding day, what you want captured, this is how I think we could do that. Of course, talk about the engagement session. This is also like Taylor's opportunity to qualify the couple. And Taylor, I'll put this back on you. You know, if you're doing a client call in this type of situation, what do you look for? Like, how do you make sure that they're not just trying to get the free engagement session?
I think even before that, just the fact that you are for sure the first photographer that they've actually done a call with, I think is very important because now if they do decide that they want to interview other photographers, you're now the one that they're kind of ranking everyone over. Or if you have like a good rapport with them really quick, they're probably not even really going to look at other photographers. They might entertain some ideas from like a bridesmaid or their mom or somebody, but overall, they're probably pretty solidly booked on you if you get along. I would say for just red flags, for at least me and the type of couple that I would be booking, if they seem like somebody that is really just nitpicky over every single specific detail, would be something that would be maybe not like I don't know if it's a red flag necessarily, but it's definitely something that would give me like a quarter of that red flag. I'm definitely, I guess the couples that I talk to that are more about that we just want to have a party with our friends and we don't want to just like essentially have a wedding for an expensive photo shoot.
Yeah.
I would say that's kind of where my usual couple fits in. So anything that I hear that's kind of about that or associated with that, I would feel like that's a pretty good green flag. And then anything to the contrary would kind of be the pieces of the red flag. I don't know in a call if like it's been I don't even know if it's ever happened that I've been on a call that I've been like, this is absolutely not the couple for me. Like I'm not booking them because they've already seen the website. They've seen my promotional video probably. By the time they get on the call, they're probably already like 80% qualified.
Yeah.
And you probably will get along with them. It's been my experience, at least in the, I don't know, like 2000, probably more actually. I've done like 1,000 weddings. So probably have done like 3,000 client calls or in-person meetings. And yeah, it's been like a long, long time since I've been actually in a call with someone or been in real life. I can't even remember a single time, to be honest. Usually that's hammered out in email before we even get to the meeting. And then I'm just like, oh, sorry, I'm booked for your date. Crazy. Things happen so fast. So sorry. Here's some recommendations for other photographers.
Yeah, that's really great. I mean, like exactly kind of what you said there. It's like these calls are an opportunity for you to actually qualify the client yourself. You get to decide. And that's actually why we structured this email the way we do. We say, you know, I'm happy to let you know that your love story has qualified you as a finalist to win the engagement session. So we aren't promising nothing. We aren't promising nothing yet. We're just getting them on the call with you. And then this actually gives all of our photographers their choice now if they want to move forward with the couple. Like Taylor said, I think it's really powerful sharing what Taylor said. Hey, if you're a couple that just wants to have a really great party and enjoy your experience at your wedding, I'm the guy to capture it. If you're wanting a really expensive photo shoot, there's somebody else out there for you. And what Taylor's doing there is a bit of a qualification of that couple. Another thing to look for on these calls is are the couples actually excited about talking about their wedding? If they only want to talk about the engagement session, that is a very big red flag. That means, you know, they're not that serious about actually booking. They're not that open about talking about where they are in planning, you know, if they're touring venues, how close they are to like finalizing that date, that kind of thing. If they get really cagey about talking about the wedding, you'll get a sense of that right away and you'll be able to disqualify them. We, Focal, actually provide a huge amount of training on these calls. It's one of the most important kind of sales points in the process. So we have a guy, his name's Troy. He's lovely. He will watch recordings of your calls and he will give you feedback. He'll give you a big training session about how to do the calls. And we're pretty ruthless on our feedback. Like, if you've got a tritone, Easter background, we might be like, I don't know, Taylor, like, let's
Come
sort
on,
that out.
book those mini sessions. Come through.
Or when Taylor and I got on the call this morning, I was like, hey, Taylor, I can hear like every car like flying past your window. Like those small details really, really matter in the professionalism and the polish that you give clients on a first impression. And we will call you out. Focal will call you out on this because it makes a huge, huge difference. The reason why, Taylor, is we actually now book about 60% of our weddings right after this call, before the engagement session, 60%, and it's getting higher and higher and higher. The way we do this is with what we call a soft close. And I'm going to show you the email template for this. Again, we are very transparent about giving away all the secret sauce. But the gist of this soft close is after the call, we ask Taylor, hey, Taylor, fill out this little report. So you actually have to do some work in the Ignite program, believe it or not. It's very short, kind of a 5-question type form. You fill it out, let us know how the call went. And then your studio manager, in this case, like Karina, is going to reach out to that couple. So if the call went well, they said, yeah, we just want to party. Your $5,000 package is great. Awesome. What Karina does at this point is she does this soft ask. What that sounds and looks like over email, call, text is pretty much, hey, couple, Taylor had such a great time meeting with you. He's really excited to work with you on your wedding. No pressure whatsoever. But some couples at this point in the process, sometimes are just ready to book, lock down their wedding date, get that box checked off in their planning. It also, reserves that date in Taylor's calendar so that another couple doesn't come along and grab it. If you're interested in booking now, let us know. And if the call went well, a huge number of couples will bite on that. And what we do then is we actually structure out an offer. And I'm going to show you that offer right now. Let me see if I can grab it. I'm going to jump ahead to this slide. This is actually an offer, which I'll talk about another time, but we actually booked this wedding with no date, no venue, but the structure of this offer is the same. So essentially, again, it's like Karina saying, hey, heard you two had a great time like meeting X photographer. We'd love to offer you that free session. So you've been chosen for the free session based on like having such a great call. To make things simple, we're giving you 2 options. Option 1 is you can have the free engagement session. It's 60 minutes. We limit it to 10 photos and you get to choose from the limited set of times and locations above. We typically make this convenient for the photographer so you don't have to drive super far. We also charge a travel and so we get them off their wallet. We get them to pay a bit of money and we let them know that, hey, this is just out of respect to the Taylor to show that you're serious. If you end up booking a wedding package with him, you'll get to put that $100 towards the wedding package and you'll receive the full gallery as well. So not just the 10 photos. Option 2 is the nice option. You get a 90-minute session, you get your full engagement gallery, and you get early bird pricing and a special kind of discount on booking the wedding. What that requires is a fully refundable retainer to reserve your wedding or your date with the photographer. And in this case, actually, the couple didn't even have a date yet. We still booked them. And the incentive here essentially is telling that couple that, if they book before the engagement session, we're going to do something special because it's, them showing how committed they are to booking. Obviously there's less risk for Taylor to have to go and do a free session and run the risk of them not booking. But this soft close is incredibly effective. We, like I said, book about 60% of our photographers' weddings now pre-engagement session. And then of course the engagement sessions that do go forward, that's Taylor's shot to blow the socks off of the couple. He's qualified them already, talked to them on the call, so it's on him. He chose that couple to move forward with. Hopefully he's good at it. And of course our team, Troy, to look for. But, a lot of those couples end up just doing the engagement session. It gives them that peace of mind that Taylor's the right guy, that he makes them feel comfortable behind the camera. And of course, they book right after that. So in a nutshell, that is probably like 5 or 6 of our 35 touch point sales process. But at a very high level, that is how we're booking the weddings. In kind of, I would say, when we book the pre-engagement wedding, that sales cycle looks around 30 to 40 days. And more for us, the average booking comes in around 60 days.
Yeah, that's for sure a lot different than kind of what I'm used to, I think. But I'm also used to more organic, just leads coming in with that venue already selected and a date and everything. And yeah, obviously the sales cycle can be same day in a lot of cases when they have everything together. But I think the smarter option is definitely to target a lot further back in the process. And I think also for securing a budget as well, that now they know like that this is going to be that piece of the pie, I think is super important as well. And for sure, something that I'll never be able to put a number on it, but I'm certain that I've lost out on hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years.
Millions of dollars.
So, millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars.
But it's so true though, because you don't I don't know, us as wedding photographers that, yeah, I can do 30 weddings, but if I do 60 weddings, how much more effort does that really cost me? Like, yeah, I have to be somewhere else 30 more days, but to essentially double your business and double your revenue, like I would say it's pretty reasonable.
It's not just the short term either of the weddings this year. If you shoot 30 weddings this year, maybe that leads to 25 referrals or 30 referrals the next year. But if you do 60 weddings this year, the long tail of that goes on a lot further. You get a lot more referrals over subsequent years. So that's why I always recommend, if you're somebody who's very much starting from scratch, you don't have that client base built, you kind of got to catalyze or jumpstart things very much in that first year. Otherwise, it's such a slow burn. It's going to be such a slow burn. And frankly, like I think with COVID and the post-COVID kind of boom we saw, everyone got very lazy. Very, very lazy. They got used to direct leads, like I showed you, because there was a shortage of vendors. Couples were scrambling to book. They were like, if I like you and I like your work and it's in my price point, I have to grab you now. Otherwise, somebody else is going to come grab this date. This is not the market now. The market is slow. And the sad truth is you just got to work a little bit harder. You just got to put in a little bit more effort. And we have so many photographers coming to the Ignite program now who, yeah, 24, 5 were pretty good. I'm like, how many weddings you got booked for 26? They're like 0. And I'm like, oh, that's no good. Like, what have you been doing for marketing? Nothing. And, I think strategy is like our Ignite strategy. It is a very long-term investment, and it's a very long-term sales process. We're not booking weddings in days. We're booking weddings over months. In fact, we book quite a lot of weddings, sometimes 6, 8, 12 months out from the initial inquiry. That's how relentless Focal is on closing. But it's those types of strategies where you have to adjust. If the direct bookings right now, there isn't that urgency, target a totally different group of couples, right? Don't fight on the Facebook groups, posting your website in the comments with 100 other people. Take a different approach, target different couples at a different part of the sales process. So that's very much like what I think. Again, there's a lot more nuance, and I'm excited to talk about those things more on the other Lo-Fi Mondays. Things like texting, taking multi-channel approaches, how to overcome actual objections, how to actually close. I want to share all of those things from what we've learned in the Ignite program. I really want to see photographers succeed. And I think after you watch all the things that go into Ignite, you'll maybe consider doing that yourself. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, if you do want to join Ignite, there is a link down below that you can get started and make sure it's right for you. But if you made it this far, I'm going to say it's a pretty convincing, even I've been involved with it over the years, and even hearing it again and hearing how much you guys have learned, it really is remarkable, even for me as a 20-year professional in this industry. Thanks for doing things differently than I would have. If I would have directed things, it would have been a completely different program.
You're
and not
welcome.
nearly as successful. So,
Well, I think the
very
other,
cool.
I think the other thing, Taylor, is that like the risk is so low on Ignite. Like, it's very kind of low cost on a monthly basis. And we're sharing the risk together. Like, Focal only really makes money when we book you weddings because we have a revenue share. That's how it works. We accept photographers into the program that we feel confident we're actually going to be able to book them weddings. If we don't book you weddings, frankly, we're losing money. A lot of money, a lot, because there's so many people supporting a photographer in our program. And our goal is to like book, because that's when we're printing money. It's when we put $200 in and we get a significant amount more in our revenue share. That's when we'll keep feeding that $200 over and over and over, and everyone's happy. You book more weddings and Focal makes tons of money. So that's the gist of this program. And I know that we are the only company that does anything like this. Everyone else in the ad space, they're going to promise you leads. They're going to give you leads. They're going to talk about, oh, pay us $1,000, supply the ad budget to us. We're going to get you leads. And then they're going to be like, you're on your own. Figure it out. Good luck. Bye. Same as Wedding Wire, same as the Knot. There's no one out there that actually is going to take an end to end for you.
Very cool. And when we were first talking about this, I felt that it was impossible. I thought it was like an impossible request to be like, can we just have someone that just like books people weddings? And here we are, 2 years
Here we
later.
are. We're pretty
Very
good
cool.
at it.
All right. That concludes the first Lo-Fi Monday. We'll be back again next Monday. Talk to you more about actually booking work. And yeah, thanks, Lachlan, for joining me. And again, links down below if you do want to get started with the Ignite program. See you next week.
See ya.